So, as I said yesterday, this is what I wanted to talk about generally, like, how do I say, female protagonists in like games where you can pick your gender. But
Yes.
before I get to that, I wanted to just start here because I have asked you this before, but I want you to lay out the claim, or not your claim or counter, whatever you want to call it, to mine.
Mm.
And that is, it's not a piece of good art or media text, whatever you want to call it, if there is no tension.
Sorry. So, you cut off for the first part of your sentence. Are you asking me if there can be a good media piece without tension?
Yeah, let's go with that question, actually. That was not the question asked, but that is also a good question. What do you think?
I mean, insofar as its purpose is to entertain an audience, I don't think that tension is necessary. Absolutely, like you can think of it as a comedy, for example. Um,
Mm.
you can know that everything is going to turn out alright, and there is actually uh, there is zero tension. Like there is nothing that will happen in the story which will significantly impact the characters, and still you might be entertained by that story, and it might be a good story. Um, so I don't feel like it's absolutely necessary. Uh, Although it's expected in some genres, right? Like a horror story
Mm.
without tension is probably not viable.
No, I mean, sure, I do see what you're going for, too. I mean, for example, like four panel comics or something doesn't require much tension or any tension at all to be funny, or a meme, you know?
Yes, or
But
like run of the mill comedy show on TV. You know.
oh my god. And they still make them, which is crazy to me that people still watch them. I haven't watched I haven't watched any piece of new media, I think. Like I mean, if playing games count, then sure, as I told you, I've been playing Baldur's Gate and I will play Starfield when it comes out. But other than that, I haven't played anything else, or read anything else.
Um,
Like old stuff, of course, I've read, but new stuff I haven't at all.
I, I mean, the people who still watch the same things they did when they were kids as adults are the Soyjacks, right? The Marvel people, the people who buy amiibos and stuff. And I'm not trying to be mean about those people. I'm just saying that that's not everyone, and I don't think that that's even the standard. I feel like the standard is to grow out of whatever you used to enjoy when you were younger and find new
Yeah,
things that
sure, but
you enjoy.
okay. So I was specifically talking about like new stuff. The new Marvel movies and new TV shows. But I mean, you can still. But I think we both agree on this point, right? That you can still grow out of the stuff you liked as a kid and then find new stuff. Like I don't know, like for example, if you read Shakespeare right now, that would be you experiencing something new from what you read as a kid, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so I do agree. I mean, to some extent, right? I mean, I know that you were kind of being a little, joking man and calling them Sojacks. That they just rewatch Pokemon or Dragon Ball Z forever, right?
I mean, yes.
But
Oh my god,
you
there's
know,
like a 13th new generation of Pokemon. I can't wait to capture blah 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 blah. It's like, I can't. I can't. I mean, I suppose that maybe it's partly envy, right? How can you still be so joyful about something like that? How like this did that part of your brain not turn on, which said that your childhood was over? Like, you understand what I'm asking,
I
right?
mean,
That it's supposed to change you as you mature. You're supposed to be a different person, and I mean, partly is envy, but partly it's more like you're fucking wasting your life, you know? Like, why don't you do something more meaningful that won't.
I mean, I cannot come up with a counter to that, or not a super good, but like maybe not a counter. That's the wrong word, but you will see what I mean. I mean, it's also that you can have love for a medium, and then still like if it's just some piece of lore that comes out, you get super excited and you do all these videos of it. But I do agree that it's like it's equivalent of like if I go to the same like every day, I eat the same burger every day and nothing else, right? I never try anything else. But then again, I'm also like complacent in that because when I lived in Greece, I would only eat the same meals all the time when I was there. I wouldn't
Were
change
they
them at all
like
because I didn't have the fucking time.
non-Greek meals or were they Greek meals?
No, what's Greek meals
Like what?
or Greek meal?
Like a
They're so
gyro?
lucky. Yeah, the gyro. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's one of the best things that has ever been created on the God's green earth. The the gyros. It's so good. But
Oh,
anyway,
they're
to get back,
gyros. Huh.
yeah. But anyway, to get back to the point is that because for example, Fallout, right? I was surprised to see like there was this mod for Fallout that came out just I guess just before Baldur's Gate 3, I guess, like maybe a few days before, right? So it was pretty smart of them to release it then. This is like, modders, not Bethesda themselves, I think at least. And
Hmm.
the trailer for that thing had 300,000 views on YouTube. And then it's like, so you can see like that, and this is Fallout 4, right? So you
Yes.
can see like how because they need something new content, and even if it's like fan made, the fans are really enjoying it. Like for fuck's sakes, I remember there was this guy. I think I was either in one of Moist Critical's videos or another guy. No, it was Trash Taste, that anime podcast, and they were talking about Dragon Ball Z and how there was this guy. Like there are no new content for it, and so what happened was that there was this guy who does Dragon Ball Z content on YouTube, but all he does, or now and again what he does, is that he just does his own original characters, so OCs, and says, can the main character from Dragon Ball Z beat up my main character? And his videos have like, really, like, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of views. It's insane. Like, I was like, Jesus Christ, So that community is starved as fuck. And at that point, I'm like, sort of in your arena. I'm like, maybe you should try something else. Try something
I
to see if you like.
understand their problem though, because after Dragon Ball Z, everything that came to Dragon Ball was pretty fucking bad. GT was bad. The new fucking I don't remember what it's called now. Dragon Ball something, whatever. It's also pretty bad. So
But the live action movie was really good, Neil. What are you talking about? The live action movie was fantastic.
I'm
From
sure
what I
it
heard.
was, especially with Goku's hair. That was certainly very very good.
Oh man, it's such a fucking shame. I know I cut you off, but it's just a shame because I have to bring this up every time I talk about that movie, live action movies. That guy who was the main character, Vegeta. I don't watch Dragon Ball Z. That's his name, right? Vegeta is the main character.
No, the main character is Goku. Vegeta
Goku.
is the
I actually knew that. I hate myself. I actually knew that. I knew that. Anyway, Goku, right? So I guess he plays Goku in the live action. I'm gonna assume, but that guy, that actor, plays in like my favorite movie of all time called The Invisible, and he does a fantastic fucking job in that movie. And it's such a shame that he was like in the Dragon Ball Z movie, and then everyone fucking hates him, and I'm like, oh man, I hate it so much because like The Invisible is a fantastic fucking film, and I mean it's more artsy, very European influence. It takes place in Canada, but it's very European style because it's based upon a Swedish book and a Swedish movie, so it's very European in a sense. But anyway,
So
you were
before
talking. I remember you were
before
talking.
I
About,
talk about it, just see the link, the gift that I sent you.
give me one second. It's gonna open. Huh?
You know this guy.
Oh,
right?
that guy.
I think we talked about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is who
Yeah,
I imagine
yeah.
when I think of the people with the childhood joy when a new fucking Pokemon is released,
Mm.
And so just to get back to what we're talking about, the I don't think that you can actually make a good live action movie unless the source material presents itself to live action, like unless the world that it comes from doesn't have, flying people or magic or that kind of stuff. Uh, if it has it, it won't work. If it doesn't have it, then maybe it can work.
Hmm. I mean, I've heard about. I mean, Attack on Titan. If you have a lot of money, could work. And Tokyo Ghoul is probably cheaper, but even Tokyo Ghoul would be insane. They would have. I mean, it would be what, like a Game of Thrones budget to do Tokyo Ghoul.
I don't think that Attack on
Just for
Titan
special effects.
would require a lot of money. I mean, you'd have to be pretty
It's
creative
CGI
with,
that look
like
good,
force
right?
perspective and using stuff to make people
Oh, that's what you
look
mean.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to have like a very talented like makeup artist to do the quote unquote monster costume for people, so they can look like
Mm.
titans, and then you just have them act out the scenes naturally, but from a perspective that makes people look tiny and the titan looks huge. But
Mm.
I mean, I'm talking as if I knew that was possible, but I don't know if that's possible for a whole movie. I only know that it's possible for like photography and a few
Yeah.
small scenes.
Actually, have you seen the live-action Attack on Titan movie?
No, all I've seen is the poster.
Here's the thing. My friend brought it with him once, but this was while I was living in Australia, and he said, "Man, I watched it. We have to watch. We have to get drunk and watch this." So we did, and I was screaming 5 minutes in because everything was so bad with it. To give you an example, at the wall, right? The wall, by the way, doesn't look like the wall in Attack on Titan. It looks like some kind of shed metal thing. And it also takes place after a nuclear war, I think. That's the aesthetic they gave me, like a Fallout sort of aesthetic. And here's the thing. There's a helicopter in the live-action film. Like, yes, it's just there. I mean, and it's like, how, like, I was just so, like, at that point, and then Levi
obviously the Eldians left it there.
Dude, the Eldians are turning the fucking, what are they fucking called, the Marleyans gay with frogs or something. I can't call. I'm still in shell shock of how bad that fucking film was. And fucking Levi and Mikasa are in some sort of sexual relationship in it. And
Pretty
they
base.
fucking Naturar Aaron in front of him.
Huh. Nice.
Yeah, it's like so strange. Like the whole thing was like, what the fuck am I watching? And then like, here's the thing: the Survey Corps, like Mikasa just disappears. Like so, Aaron thinks she's dead. In Attack on Shiganshima, she just disappears, and he's like, oh, she's dead. Then she shows up 3 years later and doesn't talk to him, and ignores him. And I'm like, what is this even Attack on Titan? And then the fucking film.
Because suddenly is a
that's
good
the
character. What the fuck?
Suck a fucking big dick, bro. No, but seriously, like, that just came out like a reaction. That's great. I'm still Attack on Titan. Eremika still runs strong in my blood, man, forever. But anyway, the thing is, like, the film ends with. I didn't watch that long, I think, but we saw sort of the ending because we skipped through a shit. And the ending of the film is like Aaron turning into a Titan, right? And then the next film, it's Annie, him fighting Annie. And then it's like they haven't even introduced Annie in the first film. So you see the issue, right?
Is there a second film?
Yes, there's a second film. So I guess
You think that the second film
live
starts
action-
with them like, going back and introducing Annie and then talking about the Titan?
Wouldn't surprise me. It was a point there is that it was really, really bad. That was a tangent, but I did want to
I feel
get
like
back to the point of this
It's
geek.
probably
that's-
better to try to make like a live action movie which doesn't follow the story of the source. Not that I'm saying that the Attack on Titan did it right. because I haven't seen the movie and because obviously your opinion of it is very low. But it does seem to me that live action adaptations, quote unquote, never work. Uh, and partly it's because the fans have an idea of how things are supposed to look like, and it's just never going to match that. Like, it's impossible. Even if it was 100% matched, like, it even if it matched 100% in the fantasy of like most of the fans, that would still be not enough to make the movie good, I think. And even if it was possible, right? Because it isn't possible. Like, most people, like, there isn't a consensus amongst people about how things are supposed to look. You'd have to, like, you have like 20 different
I
views if
saw
there's 20
those.
different people. So since there isn't a consensus, you
Yeah, yeah, I
can't like
mean,
make one piece that
just take
pleases everybody.
Rings. I mean, take Lord of the Rings, right? When that was about to come out, you know, like I'm talking about, way back when, right? In
Hmm.
2001. And they
Yes.
just had when that was about to make the movie, and like everyone was really, like people were upset back then, right? Because in
Yes.
their mind, they didn't have any art or anything. I think Tolkien had said some things about how characters looked. Here's the thing, even on elves, it's really, people are still debating if they're supposed to have pointy ears. So, but I'm pretty sure that he has said that yes, elves have pointy ears. I'm
Really?
pretty sure he has said that.
He, I'm pretty sure that there
I'm
was no
pretty
mention
sure,
of it
but
on the
I could be
Silmarillion
wrong.
at
I could be
least,
wrong.
but I haven't read the actual
There's
books
a
yet,
leaf
so.
shape.
Oh,
I
leaf
think they
shape.
say leaf
Ah,
shaped ears at some
yes.
point. So I mean, but anyway,
But leaf
to
shape
get
is not
back to this
what
man,
it is. Okay, go ahead. Go back to the man. Whatever.
but to get the man crying and being happy on this. Here's the thing, I am actually I generally defend this man because there's something about him, man. Like being that happy about a piece of media,
Yes.
it's something I miss from being a child. I know it's not appropriate or that you should that I probably won't be that excited, but there are certain pieces of media I would be that excited about releasing. And now, and also let's just sit in this man's mind. For example, I know for a fact that this man is in a polyamorous relationship that's probably one-sided. Let's be real here.
He
He
also calls
probably,
children crotch goblins, probably.
yeah. And I mean, point of being, imagine yourself. You maybe because this man, as it's with most men, if they just cleaned up, they would probably be hotter. This man has not doesn't know how to groom, doesn't know how to look good. He goes home to his like fat fucking ogre wife that fucks other men in front of him,
Yes.
and he goes to his veggie fucking job. So the only thing he has is this 1 hour apiece when he can do these live streams
Except
and
he
can
spends
react to
80%
things
of
he's
his
excited about.
income in unnecessary things like amiibos and
Yeah, I'm not
anime
saying he's not a
dolls.
retard. Yeah, I'm not saying he's not a retard. He is a retard. But I'm saying if you go into his mind, I can feel bad for him. And I can be like, okay, if I was in his shoes, I too would be excited about just the Star Wars trailers. Because just for context, this is I don't know, remember which of the Star Wars, but it's a Star Wars trailer he's reacting to.
I mean, have you ever seen like a very obese person eating food and being very happy about it? Because I don't feel envy
Yeah, but this man
exactly.
is happy now.
What?
But this man that I'm seeing on screen, he is. I've seen the clip. He is like genuinely happy.
Yes, but
Because
obese
I do agree
people
with you.
eating
Like a
food are
fat
also
man.
genuinely happy, Gagger. That's my point.
You think
Like,
so?
yes, absolutely. I've been obese and I have been happy eating food. Um, it's not it's not difficult to understand the the parallel. It's like this person is uh, spending
I
copious
see the
amounts of time
parallel. I can agree with it.
and attention and money on a thing which, granted, might be giving him something that he can forget the awfulness of his life for a minute, but like the awfulness of his life is going to come back in a few hours, right? And so he's basically in a cycle where he spends most of his time trying his best to uh, scrounge up the money necessary to afford the lifestyle he can't really afford, uh, which is a consumerist lifestyle. And
Materialist one.
yes, and this is not going to last very long. In fact, I'm pretty fucking sure
Sure.
that he can't like keep that up in his 40s. Like, even if he had like a lot of friends, which let's say shared his hobbies, they would most of them would have moved on from them by then, and so
I need to just ask you this, like, do you know a lot about this man?
no, not at
I'm
all.
just curious.
Because I'm talking
I
about
actually
it
do.
as an abstract, a general person, which is the
Okay, a general
consumerist
person.
Sijak who spends most of his time and money on things which
Okay,
are not really valuable, except as collective collector items. Let's say.
okay, okay,
But
but okay.
go
So,
ahead.
but then you see, I'm just gonna not man these two British maybe, but just see where I was more coming into this from a personal view, personal in the sense that I do know a lot about this man.
I mean, this guy,
So I was
if I
coming.
know, actually makes money from this, right? So he isn't like he's the poster face for this type of people, but he isn't actually part of them.
Hmm. Yeah, but then you see where I'm coming from. I'm coming from the personal because I know a lot of personal stuff about this man, and you're coming from the collective. And here's the thing: you and me, the arguments you laid out for the collective are more or less things I agree with. Although I would say I how do I say this? It's more. It's but you. I'm pretty sure that you would have gotten to that point as well, but it's when you pull that materialism lifestyle to a certain point, it ends in tragedy, and that's where I see the issues with it. So whatever points, so the materialism isn't really the issue. The issue is something else, probably spiritual or something like this. But then you see my point though that it seems to me that you are more attracting the collective, so to say, or the general idea of this sort of thing, whereas I'm saying, well, I actually do know some things about this man that we're seeing on screen that makes me feel like I can empathize with him.
I mean,
That's more where I'm coming from with it.
yes,
Anyway, go ahead.
I understand that the image that I sent is about a real man, but same as like for example, here in Brazil, the current president is Lula,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, he
Mm.
also used to be the president like 8 years ago, or
Mm.
yeah, I think it's 8 years ago, and he was the president for 8 years back then. So from 16 to 8 years ago, he was the president, and his marketing, let's say, like his image uh, for that he showed to people was this poor man who rose up the ranks and didn't forget what it is like to be poor, and he's in the side of the people who are poor, right? That's his image, let's say.
I'm pretty sure that's not true at all, is it? I would.
I mean, it depends how you write it, but who cares? My,
Holy
po-
shit!
my point
It
being
could be.
that
It could be true. Anyway, continue.
my point being that a poor person, like if I were to talk about poor people, I might have used Lula as an
Mm.
example of them, and I would be right to do so because he passes that image, right? He is the representative of the poor people. But if I was talking about
Mm.
the problems with the poor people, I wouldn't be actually. And you were to say, well, but Lula isn't poor, so nothing that you're saying actually reflects on him. I would say, obviously, I'm just using Lula as an example of a poor person because that's the image that he
Oh, for
passes.
sure, for sure,
Yeah, so that's the same
for
thing
sure.
that's happening here. Like this man is making money
Yeah, yeah,
by
yeah.
making videos regarding these hobbies, and so even though he is like the
Mm-hmm.
face of people like him, which is people who enjoy those hobbies, he isn't actually a representative of
Yeah.
them. Uh, and the people I was
Yeah, no.
criticizing was not him. It was the people who, let's say, use him as a role model, except that the model that they follow isn't who he actually is, which is someone who makes money from this, but who uh, they think that they can be if they try to approach who he is as close as they can, which is someone who works a bad job to make a lot of money, to buy expensive, useless paper and plastic things. Um, that's the difference, right? That's the how do I put it? That's why you can't. I mean, and the second point, right? The materialism thing that you said about the metaphysics or the tragedy that leads to it. I do think that what
Yeah.
happens is more like a replacement. Like people get too much into it, or rather, they don't have anything else, and so they go back to the part of their lives in which they used to be happy, let's say, and they try to supplement their own
Okay, that's the thing. Okay.
happiness by like going all in on that, and because they don't see any other possibility, um, and and that's the only time that they remember being happy like they want to be. So it's sort of a coping that, and I'm not using coping to be funny, right? It's a like
No, using it as a legit term, yeah.
yes, a
And I
psychological
agree with
term.
that term in this
They
sense, yeah.
are they are
Yeah.
fighting against this change that happened in them by doubling down in the personality that they had when they were happy, which was when they were kids. And I don't think that it's adaptive to do that.
Mm.
I feel like I mean, it's a regression, right?
No, I mean the thing is like we could go. I agree with you. Sort. Do have a caveat that I'm gonna get to in 2 seconds. I'm just gonna say that yeah, what you're saying is an issue a lot of people have, right? And it's just not people buying Funko Pops. It could be people doing fucking cocaine or something like this, right? So I
Yes.
mean, the thing is that I agree with you that the thing, but this reminds me of back when I was talking to, there was this, how do I say it? It was like, was it a counselor or something? A teacher? No, it was a counselor. Yes, a counselor I was talking to when I was like younger. And they were talking like, about, and I asked, like, I did ask her like about sex and stuff. And I asked her, okay, like the thing, because I had this issue with this friend of mine that was just, I don't want to get too much into it, but she was essentially being a fucking troglodyte, like really stupid. I didn't know how to get through to her. So I went to a counselor, like a person, that deals with this sort of shit and said, so because I needed help from her to talk to my friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I talked to this counselor and then she starts talking about sex and it actually sort of works with this example too. Like this man watching his wife having sex. That was really fucking mean of me to say, but I had to do it. It was right there. Anyway, the thing was that it's like she
The
said, yeah,
counselor
like
said
if you
that you
just do it in
should watch her
moderation.
having sex to improve your relationship with her.
Exactly. Exactly right. The thing is that she said like everything in moderation essentially, and like if you just do it like just in moderation and stuff, it's fine. But it's when it comes addicting and everything becomes addicting, then it becomes problematic, and etc. etc. So I think we both agree on this point that even if let's say he has bought Funko Pops, let's say he wastes $1,000 a month on Funko Pops, right? But let's
Yes.
say he dials that down to $100 worth of Funko Pops, and then $900 he invests really smartly, right? Because maybe he does it like
I feel like
it's
if you buy
actually
a
a fucking
hundred
hobby.
dollar Funko Pops a month, you don't know how to invest smartly.
Yeah, but you see my point though, right? I
Yes,
agree
I'm
sort of
just
with you, but you see my
yes,
point.
yes. I'm
Yeah, I know
just
you're being
quipping.
an asshole, but the thing
Quipping?
is,
What the fuck? I'm being an asshole? What the hell?
not asshole in that sense. What would you rather be say like cheeky?
Yes,
Is
sassy,
that a better
cheeky,
word? Yes.
annoying even, but an asshole. I mean, an asshole is like a moral flaw.
Oh, okay. You okay, you're being cheeky, Leo. Okay,
Yes,
so
yes.
the thing is that I mean, just if you just want to experience your childhood, like things may happen in childhood for like, let's say you do it one half a day a week or something like that, or even like just a day a month, then it's fine. But obviously, and we both agree on this, if you just buy all these Funkos and shit and like just do this and it's just to relive your childhood because you were happy back then it's like, yeah, you never fucking grow up, do you? That's not good.
Yes, and I mean, it's not like you talked about addiction, and I don't think that that's exactly the model. I feel like it's a similar pattern. I feel like what happens is because it's a coping pattern, right? So what happens is they have
Yes.
like this feeling, which I won't be able to put a word to it, but let's say it's a negative feeling, which grows, and the only way that they know how to make it go away is to ignore it essentially. So to pull all their attention towards something else, and then it goes away for an hour or something. And what they're doing is they're trying their hardest to keep that feeling at bay, and so they are engaging in something that looks like addiction, but it isn't really necessarily bringing them that much happiness. It's only how do you put it, deflecting their attention away from whatever is eating away at them, right? Which might be a hundred different things, but depends on what it is that they're not doing, I guess. It's probably a sort of an anxiety, because it's part of the maturity process, right? That like you realize at some point that there is something that you should be doing, like your time is valuable, and when you're not doing it, you feel that feeling that there's something wrong, that you should be doing something and you're not. And so what they're doing is not actually pursuing something, it's more like they're running away from something. And I feel like that's a difference between an addiction and like a coping pattern.
I see your point. I do. But to bring it back, it was an interesting tangent we went on, but to bring it back to what I wanted to ask you about, right?
Yes.
Because yeah. So we're talking about great art tension. So my question to so now it's snapping all the fucking way back. But would you say that what distinguishes one piece of art from great art is tension? If you take comedy for an example again, the reason that someone like Dave Chappelle is like seen as a king of comedy is because he brings in a lot of tension into his story, right? Because everyone knows, oh yeah, what part is he going to bring up? How does this all relate back to that? He's probably one of the best storytellers of our generation, honestly. Like, that's just a fact, because he's so talented. So that's what I mean. Like, would you agree with me there that that's the part that distinguishes the two, or one of the parts? Let's say that.
So I don't actually watch, or I don't see Dave Chappelle's skits and stuff. I know of him, but I haven't. So I'm having some trouble understanding how you're using the word tension when it comes to comedy. So can you define it for me first?
Define the word tension.
Yes, how you
or how I mean
when you
when I say tension.
Yes, tension in a story as being vital for it being great.
What did you say?
Tension in a story as being vital to it being great.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you mean by tension when you use it that way?
Okay. When I use it that way, what I mean is that tension would be something like there's an expectation of something happening. In this case,
So,
that for example, Chekhov's gun. You heard of it? I
Yes.
assume you heard of Chekhov's gun, right?
yes.
That's tension.
Mm-hmm.
In that sense, that's how I mean. So to give an example with Dave
So like
Chappelle,
there's
right?
the
Is
author
that
makes
he-
a promise about something to the listener, or reader, or viewer, or reader, or whatever, and
Yes.
as long as there is a promise,
It's
there is tension.
expectations.
But it doesn't
Yes, it's
tension mean that
expectations too, right?
isn't tension like because if you know it's going to come, then there is no tension, right?
So, not really. Depends.
Because
Like, if you know,
it's,
for
it's
example,
how
right?
people detest like spoilers because it loses the tension of the story, right?
Yeah, but what I mean in this sense is, how do I say this? Like, okay, so to go back to fucking Lord of the Rings again, right? So they say, Frodo, you need to drop the ring into the fucking Mount Doom, right? So
Yes.
expectation there on Tolkien is that that Frodo will be in Mount Doom because they have been talking about Mount Doom, how horrible Mount Doom is, and how terrifying Mordor is. So the
Yes.
expectation there, Frodo will go to Mordor. Like if he succeeds his mission, that's different. But the expectation is that he will go to Mordor. That's the tension. Now let's say this is very important. Like let's say for example that I'm creating a story right where someone is like harassing or bullying or being mean to someone behind someone's back, right? And the main character doesn't know that his wife is like being harassed or something like this. Then there's another type of expectation. The expectation would be that either it gets solved by the wife or that the husband finds out and there's a confrontation with him and the people doing this to his wife. Now, breakage of attention, which is one of the most biggest sins you can do, in my opinion, is if like the husband never finds out, the wife dies behind, like just dies, and he never finds out. Then there's no, then you ruin the tension because there's no confrontation.
That would be a funny
And the
story.
problem, yeah,
I
we don't have
mean,
to get
that
into
would.
it.
I feel like that would be a great story. You know, like if you build up all this expectation about this affair, and then in the end, like the wife dies, and then it ends with her funeral, and the husband never learns about it, and it's like that would be a great fucking story. I think if it's a short story, of course.
Yeah, but that's also the next point too. But that's a more addendum point that if it's a short story, then you can get away with more. But if it's a longer style story, like a long fucking book or a long movie, and there's no payoff,
Yes.
that's also the thing. It's an expectation of a payoff, I guess, would be. Yes, that's a great way of saying the expectation of a payoff.
Yes.
That's tension in a story.
Okay.
So to go back, great art has an expectation of a payoff that gets delivered. The expectation of the payoff gets delivered. Would we agree on this?
Huh. Yes, I think so. Uh, I'm trying to think of exceptions, and it's hard to think of exceptions. So I have to agree, but
Absolutely.
that doesn't mean that that there isn't any. And if there is some, then maybe the answer is no. But since I can't think of it, so yes.
Actually, I do know quite a few, but I mean, now we're talking. I realize the big counter to my argument, right? It would be something like, how about songs, like great pieces of songs, right? I mean, the shorter ones, right? Like Elvis or the Beatles, you know?
I mean,
Then you don't really.
don't they all follow? I mean, I don't
But,
know anything about musical theory, but don't they follow like a like crescendo and climax pattern? So you can say that payoff is in the climax.
that's true too. Okay, so for example, there's this. Oh, I love. Have you seen a movie called Ichi the Killer?
No.
Okay, so sorry for spoiling it for you, but it's like 20 years old, so you know.
Okay.
It's a Japanese film, and in it, what happens is that the main character sort of is this guy, like oh you guessed it, Ichi the Killer, and Ichi the Killer goes around killing mafiosos or the part of the I don't know if it's like the yakuza, but I think it's one of the major
Yes.
players in Japan.
Like there is no
So it goes
other
around-
thing. It's just Yakuza there.
Like I guess it's the yakuza, but anyway, he goes around killing a lot of yakuza members, and then there's this bad guy, like the mafioso leader, and he's like super evil. He like tortures people using burnt oil. His mouth, he has done something with his mouth so he can eat hands and arms of his enemies and stuff. And then throughout the movie he says like, "Oh, I'm gonna take care of this Ichi the Killer guy. I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna fight him head on." And like it's like this big build up, right? That they're gonna fight. And Ichi the Killer is like, he has some. I don't remember what it is. I think it's schizophrenia. Thank you. Oh, thank you. I was the one who came up with it.
Yes, you're
So
welcome.
he kind of. No worries. But anyway, what happens is that he has this schizophrenia and like deals with that. So this bad guy, let's call him, I don't know, Greg, like the Japanese name of Greg. But anyway, Greg and Ichi the Killer, they're gonna
It would
fight, and
be
then
Gureguru.
Gregory. So Gregory, even spots out the building they're gonna fight in, and then like it comes to a climax, right? And so Ichi the Killer and Gregory, they meet on the top of this, building, and then Gregory goes around, like with his hands raised, like, "Oh, you're so scary, man! You're so big! Oh man, this is gonna be the best fight of my life!" And like, it's like that. And then Ichi the Killer comes to realization that he has been conned by another unrelated. It's related, I guess, but to my points, is unrelated. But he comes to the conclusion that he has failed, and because of something else, so he just sits down and says, "I'm not gonna fight you, Gregory." And then Gregory just says, "What? I've been building up my whole life for this fight." And then he just jumps off a building and kills himself.
Which one?
And the thing
Ichi
is,
or
like,
Greg?
no, Gregory,
Oh.
he just kills himself because he didn't get the fight. He didn't get the boss fight. And the thing is, like, it's a weird. It's a serious film, right?
Huh.
But it's really serious. This film. But it's
Why wouldn't Gregory just?
That's not actually the point.
Why wouldn't Gregory just try to fight Ichi by going and hurting him and seeing if he defends himself?
That's the thing. I don't really remember why Ichi doesn't fight him. I don't remember if it's because it could be that Ichi himself kills himself or something like this. But the point here being that the expectation is they're gonna fight. They're gonna fight, right?
Yes.
And like it's gonna be this epic fight too, because Ichi has a sword, right? Like a proper katana and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gonna be so he's like this Gregory. I think he like trains, like before his fight with Ichi, trains how to dodge a katana with his fists and stuff. So that's what I mean. With so in this case, it's like it's not the payoff you wanted, but it's a fucking great payoff because it's like it fits the characters, and that's the next part too, right?
Oh,
that
I
the
see. I thought that you were
characters'
actually going
actions
to
have to
criticize
fit
it.
too.
I thought that you were going to criticize it by
Yeah.
bringing it up. But okay,
No,
so you're saying that this is a
No.
good payoff, even though it's not to expectations.
Yeah, but it will.
It's a twist.
Yeah, exactly. It's not. Yeah, it's a twist, but it still fits the expectation in a weird fucking roundabout way, because you don't know what the payoff is, but the payoff can not be what you expected and it's still great. I mean, I have because there's this other more clean cut example. I'm not gonna get into it. I realized I was telling you, shit, I should have gone with that one instead. But anyway, so do you sort of agree with that that what distinguishes art from great art is this sort of tension where there's a expected payoff of the expectation. I liked how I explained it before that I forgot, but
I mean, I feel like for stories, that's probably the case. Uh, I don't think that. I mean, I'm trying to think of like great stories, and thinking about whether or not there was like because what you're talking about is essentially like a circularity to the story, right? Which is like the ending is sort of folded itself in the beginning of the story, right? So it feels like it's slowly unfolding rather than it's suddenly there. Like the story, it's tracking a thing, right? Like the development of the arcs of the characters. It's being tracked across a line in space or in time, that is, and you can see it moving, and it doesn't suddenly jump somewhere else to the end of the story. Let's say the end is sort of connected to the beginning, and so the way that this presents itself in our story about the Ichi the Killer would be how the fight is being built up, and you see how the characters are and what their personalities are, and you see that whatever is going to find or happen in that rooftop, it's going to be important, and you don't know how it's going to go, and the way it goes is contrary to expectations, but it still fits because it shows that the characters are doing what they would do. That is to say, it doesn't. Although the expectation, like the meta expectations of, oh, he's training to dodge the sword, so that means there's going to be a sword fight, but that's not necessarily the case. Because you can, train for a fight in real life and never have that fight. Because people are not perfect in predicting what's going to happen. So what's more important?
Yeah. No.
So what's more important is that the characters are faithful to how they've been presented so far, to their own personality, and if they are, then I guess that's what helps make that story a great story, I think.
Yeah, because there was something really important that you said there, right? That you said that I don't know if this was your interpretation, like trying to pull out a meaning of the story, or this was just you telling what you think of the story. But you said that sometimes you train your whole life for a fight that never happens, but it's still worth it. But let me assume that you meant that was a meaning of the story of Ichi the Killer, because that is something that we see a lot, right? Like, for example, let's take a bullied kid that got beaten up every day in school. And then he goes like, I'm never going to get beat up again. And he does MMA or something, and he gets really fit, really healthy. So he never gets that, fight with his high school bullies. Like, they're gone, they are probably, moved on from it anyway, right?
Yes.
But he still became a
TikTok.
better person out of it. What did you say?
They're probably very successful
yes.
on TikTok.
Yes, that's the thing, right? Sort of what I've seen, like all these people that think like they wish death on their enemies, or like, oh, I hate you. You probably have a horrible life, and it's like they probably don't. You need to stop thinking about these people. Like someone, oh my god, like someone said to, I mean, we don't have to go, but anyway, for example, like people say to Jordan Peterson, like, oh, he hates his life. He's like, I've seen too many people say that. I'm like, my God, what do you mean? He's probably a millionaire by now. He has a wife that loves him, and two very successful kids, and he has grandkids. And he must be a multimillionaire by this point. And I mean, he owns a fucking house in Miami, and then like 2 properties in Canada that he can just switch when it's like, when he needs to get some low time. And people say, oh yeah, he probably has a horrible life. And it's like, oh yeah, sure, bro, sure.
I mean, it depends how you measure it, right? I'm sure that, like, his routine is one that not many people would be able to endure. And he's been enduring it for decades, right? So his life is... I'm pretty sure that his life is very difficult, but I'm sure that that's how he wants it. Not... he doesn't want an easy life, so... I'm sure that other people would don't envy him that much, but that doesn't mean that his life is bad. It just means that it isn't the life that they want.
True. I mean, and that's also something that's really important, right? Because what you said, that it's not a bad life, it's just a life they don't want. So therefore, they assume it's bad.
Yes.
Because I mean, for example, like we might look at someone like
values,
Andrew
right?
Tate, right? That's, to be fair, I mean, I don't. Yeah, I mean, if you see someone like Andrew Tate and you say, "Oh, I hope this person, has a horrible life," it's like, here's the thing. What do you want me to say? Like, to that. I'm not saying you specifically now, of course, but like he's probably fucking castle in Romania, fucking a bunch of 18-year-olds, like snorting coke of their asses and shit. Like he probably thinks he's having the best time of his life. So I mean,
Yes.
but it's not like I would ever want. But that doesn't necessarily make it bad in a subjective sense. It makes it bad objectively, but then we get into a whole more like moral objectivism and stuff like that.
I mean, it's like he's living inside the Matrix, right? And a good position inside the Matrix, which is a better. His subjective experience is that his life is good, but the reality is that it isn't, and there is a time in which he will learn that. He'll learn that his life isn't actually good, but for now, it is, and who knows? Who knows if he's ever going to really come to terms with the impact that he has on other people and whatever damage he has done to people via propagating this very self-centered, narcissistic, and shallow lifestyle and trying to sell it to young people. Like, I'm sure that if he ever learns about it, whatever pleasure he has ever accomplished in his life, like whatever he has felt, like it won't be enough of a reward for the guilt he'll feel, most likely. But that's
At the end of it, yeah, sure.
if he
For sure.
realizes it, right? If he realizes what he's done, maybe he never does. And I mean, it's difficult, right? It's different lives, and it's difficult to say which one is better or worse because you have to pretend that you're like an objective observer, which there isn't one. Like, or if there is, he is not the one who is speaking. It's me instead. And so I don't know which life is better. I just know that I don't envy it. It's just like, who the fuck cares, right? Cars, like, who the fuck cares? Big houses, like, who the fuck cares? Women, okay, women, nice, okay, but the rest is like whatever.
No, I agree. It's like, how to say, yeah, who cares? That's the best way of, like, talking about like that, because that's the thing, that the only people he talks so much shit about women, but all he cares about at the end of the day is that women look up to him.
Yes, I feel like
Which is ironic.
his whole, how do you put it? I mean, that's actually a great point. It's very funny how how he belittles women, and how much his whole value system is based on being attractive to them. So literally everything he is thanks to women wanting that.
Yes.
So
Nah.
yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's like, I'm not sure. It's like a politician hating his voters, because the voters decide
Yes.
what
yes,
the
yes,
politician
yes,
is,
yes.
and yeah,
Yes, you're so right on that. Like, it's the same. It's like Lula, man. With that said, I need to go, but it was nice talking to you, man.
dude, we haven't even fucking talked about the women in video games.
No, we will get to that next time. But as I said, I'm running on fumes, man.
Yes, no, I'm not trying to
And-
stop you from leaving. I'm just saying that I had this, image going on the recording of 3 female video game characters, and none of the conversation is about them now.
Yeah, but that's for the next time, man.
Yeah.
But also, there's a huge fucking earwig in my room, and I need to kill it.
Really?
Because
You
I
should capture
fucking
it.
hate. Yeah, I hate. Man.
Then
No.
photograph it in 3D and then load it on your game.
Take care, man. It was nice talking to you.
Yeah, see you later.